The first sound I hear is the soft tick of cooling metal. My car settles like a tired animal after a long night, the dashboard clock blinking 6:12 in pale green. I am curled in the back seat with the seatbelt strap as a pillow. My knees ache from the angle, and a crease across my cheek tells me I slept hard enough to dream. The lot is still half dark, the broad glass face of the office building reflecting the last of the streetlights. I watch my breath ghost against the window and remind myself that this is temporary. Everything is temporary, even the kind of temporary that is stretched into 3 weeks. I sit up and feel for the travel-size bottle of mouthwash in the cup holder, then the baby wipes, then the tiny mirror with a crack like a river running through it. I swipe under my eyes, pat down the flyaway pieces of hair, and pull last night's blazer over a clean blouse that I kept folded in a tote bag. The ritual has become a quiet little choreography. If I do it in the same sequence, I feel less like a person who slept in a parking lot and more like a person who just happens to be early. The sun threatens the horizon when I slide out of the car. I lock it, hesitate, and then open it again to grab the mug I keep for appearances. Coffee is an office smell, a normal smell, and it helps to walk in with something ordinary in my hand. The automatic doors whisper open. A cold rush of recycled air touches my face. I nod to the security guard and say good morning like I am not carrying my life in the trunk. The office has not filled yet. I like it that way. I can pretend the gray carpet and glass partitions exist only for me. My desk plant sags, a little dramatic, but loyal. I touch one leaf and apologize for the missed watering. My screen wakes with a glow. I check the timesheets, answer 2 emails that arrived from clients on the East Coast time zone, and start a new draft of the product brief due on Friday. I anchor myself to small tasks. If I can stack enough checked boxes, I will feel steady. At 9, the tide of voices rises, and chairs squeak. Someone laughs about traffic. Someone else complains about the elevator. I smile where appropriate and keep the span of my focus narrow. I do not owe anyone my story. I owe my deadlines, my team, and the future version of me who will afford a door that locks from the inside. When I stand to refill my mug, I catch my reflection in the glass wall of the conference room. I look fine. Not composed exactly. Not undone either. Fine is enough to get through a day. Out of habit, I glance toward the windows that overlook the employee lot. The line of cars sits neat and indifferent. My silver sedan looks like any other. The sight calms me, then pricks me with a tiny sting of fear. I run through my checks. Nothing visible, nothing personal in the seats, blanket stuffed down, duffel covered. I did everything right. When I return to my desk, a calendar ping pops up. A new meeting that was not there last night. 10 minutes with my boss at noon. Subject line is neutral. Weekly sync. I breathe out. It is probably nothing. The day steadies into work. The page fills with words that belong to the company and not to my life, and for a few hours I am only who I am paid to be. By noon the office has shifted into its bright, efficient hum. I bring my notes and a polite smile to my boss's door. He looks up, gestures me in, and closes the glass with a soft click that sounds louder than an island. On his desk sits a thin manila folder, and his coffee cup turned so the logo faces him. These are not signs of anything, I tell myself. He does not ease me into it. He turns the folder around and slides a printed photo across the desk. It is me, small and vulnerable in the glow of a parking lot light, asleep in the back seat of my car. The angle is a little high, like a camera mounted on a pole. My face is half hidden by my arm. My hair is a black halo in disarray. The blanket is visible. The caption in the corner reads 2/11A, with the date I cannot deny. For a second, the world narrows to the rectangle of paper. There is a roaring in my ears like the ocean in a shell. We have a concern, he says. Voice careful, eyes scanning my face and then darting away. Security flagged this. They thought it might be a trespasser. Then they realized it was you. He folds his hands. Why are you sleeping in your car on company property? The question lands with a blunt force. He does not say it unkindly, but he says it like something that must be answered, because something else will happen if it is not. I open my mouth and find nothing useful. There are 100 true things I could say and none of them feel like the right version of true. The rent doubled at my apartment with 2 weeks' notice. My savings were not ready. Every shelter list is a maze. I am still working. I am still trying. I do not want to be a problem you have to solve. Instead I say, I am between places, and I did not want to miss work. It is the thinnest slice of the whole. He exhales through his nose, a small storm of frustration. His jaw works. He is a decent man under pressure and the company handbook is a hard line. He says, you cannot use the lot as a dwelling. It creates liability. If something happened to you, if someone complained, if there were an incident, we would be exposed. He stops when he hears his own words and the way they sound against the photo. He softens a shade. Help me understand, he says. Are you safe? Do you have a plan? The door opens without a knock. HR steps in, crisp blouse, tablet in hand, apology on her lips for interrupting, which is not an apology. She has already heard. She sits. The table becomes an interview island. I try to hold on to my professional self, the self with deliverables and talking points, but the photo is a current pulling me sideways. She asks if I am aware of company policy regarding facilities, safety, and overnight presence. I say yes. She asks if I have been sleeping there regularly. I say I have parked there before. She asks how long. I look down at my hands, knee on my skirt, and say a few weeks. We will need to review, she says, and there is a formal edge to it that chills me. We will need a plan to ensure this does not continue. The word continue vibrates like a wire. I nod because what else can I do? My boss leans back, eyes a little haunted now. He says, I wish you had told me sooner. I say, I wish I had never needed to. The room holds the truth and the embarrassment, and neither of us knows where to put them. When I leave, the hallway feels brighter than before, almost surgical, and I feel exposed in it. The rumor travels faster than the elevator. By mid-afternoon, the air has changed. Conversations near me lower in volume, and eyes flick away and then back with trained discretion. I drink water I do not want because it gives me a reason to stand up and sit down like a person with a normal day. In the break room, someone asks if I am all right with a tone that is both kind and curious. I say I am fine, thank you, and the word fine tastes like cardboard. HR sends a calendar invite labeled conduct review. It lands like a stamp. A coworker I barely know sends a link to a list of transitional housing resources with the subject line, hope this helps. I click it and recognize half the names, all with wait lists. My phone buzzes with a message from my former landlord demanding the last month's rent and an additional fee labeled administrative. I breathe against the pressure in my chest and file it for later because there is no money to conjure in this hour. A pair of colleagues, people who usually greet me with jokes about snacks and coffee, sit on the other side of our cube wall and whisper. They do not say my name, but I know the shape of it inside their sentences. One wonders if I am angling for attention. The other says it is sad, but we all have to manage our lives. The words land with small bruises. I turn back to my screen and concentrate on the product brief, on verbs and customer benefits, like a person building a raft from paperwork. My boss calls me back into his office late in the day. He is not as crisp as usual. He rubs the bridge of his nose and says he has spoken with HR. They do not want me on the property after hours. He says it like he knows it will hurt and he cannot change it. I nod. I expected as much. He adds that they are willing to provide a list of services and connect me to a partner nonprofit. I nod again and say thank you because I was raised to acknowledge effort even when it does not solve a problem. He asks if I have family nearby. I say no, not the kind who can put me up. He asks if I am safe. I say yes because the truth is nuanced and they do not have a policy for nuanced. When I step outside at 5:30, the light is warm and flat. The lot is a map of other people's evenings. I sit in my car, hands on the wheel, and stare at the fence line. If I cannot be here after hours, I will have to move. The nearby streets are posted with overnight restrictions. The shelter lot is full by 4. The gym I trialed for a week rented towels like they were gold. I try not to cry because tears make it harder to think, and thinking is the only tool I have left. I drive a few blocks and park under a broad plane tree that shades the sidewalk. The neighborhood is half industrial, half residential, a patchwork of loading docks and stoops. I watch a woman pull a wagon of groceries and feel an ache for ordinary weight. I eat almonds from a zip bag and a banana, and I plan the night like a military operation. Later, I will return when the lot empties. I will tuck into a space near the back where the camera angles are blunt. I will be gone by dawn. I will hurt no one. The plan feels like a thin blanket on a cold night. It is not warmth, but it is something to hold. The conduct review meeting is set for the next morning at 9. I arrive early and move through the office with the clinical calm of a person braced for weather. The conference room is glass on 3 sides, which feels like a cruel joke, but the blinds are drawn halfway. HR sits at one end with a tablet. My boss sits at the other with a legal pad. 2 additional managers I have worked with on projects take seats along the side, eyes careful. The chair at the center is mine. We begin with policy. HR reads from a document about safety, facilities, and authorized use of property. She has a professional voice that smooths edges and makes every sentence sound inevitable. While she speaks, I lay my folder on the table. It is a plain folder, but it holds weeks of my life neatly arranged. I have learned that randomness is the enemy of credibility. When she finishes, my boss nods to me. He says, if you want to share context, now would be the time. The kindness in his voice is a subtle rope tossed into moving water. I take it. I tell them the rent increased at my apartment with short notice. I tell them I paid what I could and looked for a room and found wait lists. I tell them the hours I work make it risky to park in certain parts of town, and the company lot felt safer than the alternative. I do not ask for pity. I ask for understanding. Then I open the folder. First, pay stubs and bank statements that show a steady history. Then a printed thread of email responses from property managers who turned me down, and 2 from shelters confirming my place on a wait list. Then a note from a community legal clinic that met with me about the rent issue, with the date and the counselor name. I lay each sheet down like a card in a game where the stakes are my place in the world. The room quiets in a new way. Even the air conditioner hum feels polite. I add a list of addresses where I have parked on nights when I did not use the company lot, with dates, a small act of transparency that also proves I am not treating the office as a home. I finish with an ask. I am requesting a short grace period, 2 weeks, to use the lot between 11 at night and 5 in the morning, without staying a minute beyond. I will park in a far corner and keep a low profile. I will check in with security each night. After 2 weeks, I will be in transitional housing with the nonprofit partner. I slide across an email string with the intake coordinator, including a scheduled appointment. The room sits with the weight of it. One of the managers, who has always seemed distant, clears his throat and says, "I did not realize it was like this." HR's expression shifts, small but visible, from enforcement to evaluation. She says, "This is helpful context. Policy exists for safety, but safety includes human reality." My boss leans forward. He looks like someone who has just found a new path on a map. He says, "I am in favor of a temporary accommodation if we can document it." We go back and forth. HR notes liability and risk. I note that risk exists whether I am here or 2 blocks away, and that a controlled plan is safer than pretending it is not happening. I show them a text from the security guard who saw me once, asking if I was okay, and my reply saying I would be gone by dawn. The guard had meant well, and his words now help me. The office feels less like a tribunal and more like a negotiation between people. HR asks for a break. We step out. I stand at the window and look down at the lot where my car waits in the morning light like a dog that never learned a bad trick. When they call me back in, HR has a draft in hand. The accommodation will be for 14 nights. I will check in with security. I will not use facilities beyond the restrooms during set hours. The nonprofit intake appointment is a condition. If at any point it feels unsafe, the plan ends. It is not generous, but it is real, and it is something I can hold. The accommodation changes everything in small, crucial ways. That night I check in with the security guard, who nods with a kind look that is almost relief. I park in the far corner, away from cameras that watch the main stretch, and angle my car under a light that gives me a sense of being seen without being exposed. I set an alarm for 4:30. When it rings, I sit up with a start and whisper thank you to the cold morning for not turning on me. I leave no trace when I slide out and lock the door. At work, the air eases. A woman from accounting brings me a coffee and does not make conversation about it. A designer who has never said much to me drops a folded note on my desk with 3 apartment leads circled and a smiley face that somehow does not sting. My boss checks in once a day to ask if the nonprofit has moved my appointment up, and when I say not yet, he says to keep him posted. HR sends a document titled Interim Plan with signature lines, and I sign and send it back with steady hands. A few people still whisper. A rumor does not die at the same speed as the truth. One person posts a vague status on a private social channel about boundaries and attention seekers. It circles back to me because everything does. I read it and then close the app. I am not responsible for other people's narratives. The only thing I can do is stack facts and live within them. My folder grows thicker. I collect progress like receipts. The nonprofit appointment arrives on a Thursday afternoon. I take my lunch break and walk 3 blocks to their office. The waiting room smells like lemon cleaner and stress. A woman with braids and kind eyes calls my name. We go through the intake, and I answer questions I have learned to answer without shame. She finds a placement for me. Not immediate, but within 10 days. When I return to the office, my boss looks up from his screen and I give him a small thumbs up. He gives me one back. It is the most human exchange we have had in weeks. That evening, HR schedules a formal check-in with my boss and me. We sit in the same glass room, but it feels less hostile. We review the plan. We confirm the date the accommodation ends and the plan for what comes next. HR asks if I have encountered any harassment or hostility. I say a bit of whispering, nothing actionable. She nods and says to send anything specific if it crosses a line. For the first time, I believe she means it. I try an open house on Saturday. A small studio with a window that looks at a brick wall, and it might as well be a view of the ocean for how it makes my chest loosen. The application is simple, the rent steep but survivable. I text the intake coordinator and she says to apply and use the nonprofit's letter of support. I do, and I tuck the hope into my pocket like a sparrow. At night, I sleep under my thin blanket and dream of a real bed where the sheets smell like detergent and not the back seat. The days pass in a rhythm that does not feel like drowning. I work. I shower in the office gym with a borrowed code. I pack my life back into the car each morning and unfold it each night. I eat oranges over the sink in the break room and let the brightness cut through the fatigue. I watch the clock with the devotion of a monk. I am building a bridge one plank at a time. No one sees it but me, but I can feel the shape of the far bank now. The call comes on a Tuesday at 11:53, the little window of time when the office thins for lunch and my inbox breathes. The landlord of the studio says my application is approved pending deposit, which the nonprofit has agreed to cover in part. I press the phone to my ear and say thank you in a voice that sounds almost like someone else. When I hang up, I stare at my hands as if they are new. My boss walks by, and I lift my gaze. He reads the news in my face and nods once. Good, he says. And that one word fills the space with warmth. The final days of the accommodation are uneventful by design. I check in with security each night like a ritual. I park under the same light. The guard and I trade weather comments in silence. The rumor storm has drifted to another shoreline. People have moved on to talk about a client launch and a birthday cake in the break room. I am still the person who slept in a car, but I am also the person who did the work, kept the deadlines, and showed up on time. Both things can be true at once. I have learned to live with that. On the morning I am due to sign the lease, HR sends me a short note. It says, wishing you a smooth move-in, and includes a link to company resources about financial counseling. I click it and save it. My boss hands me a printout of my latest review, quietly positive, with a note about resilience that is cheesy but sincere. He says, take an extra hour at lunch today if you need it. I say, I will, and thank you, and we both avoid making it a moment too large for the room. The studio is small and echoes when I walk in. The window faces the brick wall exactly as promised. I run my hand over the countertop and feel the cool certainty of it. The nonprofit coordinator meets me with a smile and a checklist. We go through the lease, the payment, the key. When she leaves, I lock and unlock the door 3 times, laughing once, softly, because it is mine to lock. I sit on the floor with my back against the wall and let the quiet sit with me. The quiet is not absence now. It is safety. That night, I drive back to the lot one last time, not to sleep, but to keep a promise to myself. I park in my usual corner and sit for a minute. The light above me buzzes, a tired sound I have grown to love. I whisper thank you to the car that held me and to the version of me who held on. Then I turn the key and drive away. The building recedes in the rear view, a rectangle of glass and rules that, for a while, made a harbor because people inside it chose to see me. At work the next day, a few colleagues ask about the move. I say it went fine. One of them says if I ever need a couch to crash on, I should text. I will probably never take them up on it, but the offer stitches a small tear. My boss asks how the place island. I say it is quiet. He says, quiet is good. We share a smile at that. HR schedules a final note to close the accommodation. It reads, resolved. I like the word. It does not mean erased. It means faced and finished. In the evening, I carry a grocery bag up my stairs, 3 flights, my arms shaking in a way that feels good. Inside the studio, I set down milk and eggs and a small bundle of flowers I bought at the corner store because I wanted something alive on my windowsill. I open the window and the smell of brick and rain slides in. I turn on a small lamp and the room warms. I make a simple dinner and eat it slowly. When I wash the single plate, I think about the photo on my boss's desk and how one image can define you if you let it, or become only a chapter if you do not. I dry the plate and set it in the cabinet. The sound is gentle. I am not fixed. I am not broken. I am someone who kept going, and now I have a door that locks from the inside.